wait, it wasn't ready. Just a second. We missed the first note.
Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. I've been jumping into some more rabbit holes as of late, and I'd like to share some stories of some more famous or infamous players of World of Warcraft. Double Agent is a Pandaren shaman who did something very unique. He attained the maximum level, 110, without ever picking a faction or leaving the starting area for his race. Pandaren have a different introduction for World of Warcraft. You don't pick a faction upon creating a character. Instead, you first make a neutral, factionless character. And you pick your faction after a short series of quests. Normally, this process is done at around level 10 or so, but Double Agent found out that it was possible that you never needed to pick a faction, or even leave the starting area. He discovered that you could level to the max solely by gathering herbs and ore. The process is incredibly slow and tedious, but every expansion, he makes it a point to reach the new max level by gathering copper and peace bloom, and at the same time remaining neutral. Blizzard saw fit to reference him by putting an NPC named the Venerable Shaman in the Monk Order Hall, who patrols the area occasionally to mine some copper veins.
The fuck, dude?
Next on our list, we have Ian Bates, also affectionately known as the Red Shirt Guy. In BlizzCon 2010, he brought up some lore issues regarding the Wildhammer clan. This was during the Cataclysm beta, and one of the Wildhammers, Falstad, was replaced by Kurdran as a representative of the Council of the Three Hammers, even though Varian Wrynn decided that Falstad was to be the representative. The game designer, Chris Metzen, incorrectly stated that Falstad was dead, to which the Red Shirt Guy corrected him.
No, he survived, and in fact, he was the leader of Airy Peak in Vanilla WoW through Wrath of the Lich King.
Right, of course. Right.
Of course.
Yeah, Alex, what's up with that?
Wow.
Thanks for pointing that out. We're gonna get that fixed.
Thank you.
Bet.
And in response, Blizzard corrected their mistake and replaced Kurdran with Falstad. And as a nod to one fan's diligence, alongside Falstad is another NPC wearing a red tabard named the Wildhammer Fact Checker. And funny enough, if you take him out as a horde, he does indeed have a chance to drop a red shirt.
Wait, really?
Today, Ian is now a writer for the Blizzard fan site, BlizzPlanet.
That's crazy, I had no idea. Is that actually true?
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, this is a video! Oh boy. I love this one. This is my favorite. This is such an inspiration to me.
Ever since the introduction of personal loot, ninja looting in World of Warcraft for the most part has been a thing of the past.
Yeah,
but back during the early days, every other day you would read stories of guilds having their loot stolen by what were called ninja looters. Quite possibly the most infamous incident was when the guild Nevermind killed Gar in the Molten Core.
Yep.
The guild was celebrating a successful kill and were talking amongst themselves trying to figure out who gets what.
Yeah, I want that ring. I do.
Alright. Who else wants
Look how many years ago that was, man.
At the time, the way most guilds handled loot was through the Dragon Killing Point system, or DKP for short. Raiders would accumulate these points through raiding and doing guild activities, and they would then spend these points on items that dropped. Nevermind seemed to forgo the system, instead opting for the free-for-all looting option and then rolling against each other for the boss's loot. While this is much simpler than the DKP system, it of course leaves the guild open to thievery of any items that drop.
Like, I really don't understand that. It's the dumbest thing.
What are you doing?
What the fuck?
This is what they get.
Oh my god. What the fuck?
They deserve this.
I'm going to kill myself right now. See ya.
They were left in shock at this turn of events. I mean, who could possibly imagine that out of 40 random strangers on the internet, that someone might be untrustworthy?
Wow.
I, for one, am astonished. Like I said, this happened all the time, but this particular incident was one of the most infamous, even spawning a parody video.
Start rolling random. Okay. Hello, we're waiting.
What's going on?
Oh my god!
I remember that. That was a good video. That was so long ago, too. Oh! This is from
In the game,
Oldwar.
there exists a selection of items reserved for game masters, or GMs.
Peeps whistle.
They're primarily used for testing purposes, and have these rather overpowered properties tied to them.
Yeah,
One of these
I
items
bet.
was a shirt called Martin Fury, which upon
But that
use
was a
killed
mace.
all enemies within a 30-yard radius.
I guess not.
Here's a story of somehow, some way, this item fell into the hands of not a GM, but rather a normal, everyday player.
Ooh.
Leroy Speltz was a player in the guild The Marvel Family on the US server Vecnalash.
I remember this, dude.
Like many others at the time, someone had hacked their way into his account and he had all of his items sold and characters deleted.
Nope.
As standard procedure, he paged a GM to have his account restored so he could get back to playing the game. His request was granted, but in the process
The
of restoring
GM
his
is
account,
so stupid,
the GM
dude.
had mistakenly sent him Martin Fury along with the rest of his items.
Imagine out of
Not
all
being
the items, you
soulbound,
send him
Leroy
the
sent
worst
this
one.
item over to his guild member, Karate Chop, and he did possibly the dumbest thing you could do. He used it. When Raid Night rolled around, they went on a Northrend world tour, going through the entirety of the Old War Raid, the Obsidian Sanctum, and the Eye of Eternity. They one-shotted all of the bosses there and made it rain. Karate Chop was quite liberal
There
with
it
his
is,
use of the
dude.
GM item, and the guild
There it
claimed
is.
several world firsts in the span of an hour. Obviously, people figured out that something fishy was going on.
God, dude.
The Marvel Family wasn't
Shit
a
was always so
hardcore progression guild, and to see them rolling through everything was suspicious to say the least. Well,
Yeah, I bet.
word got out about Martin Fury, and Blizzard, probably in a moment of panic, decided to give a 24-hour ban to not only those involved in the raid, but everyone online in the guild during that time.
Wait,
Imagine
what?
the surprise for the level 5s
Even
in
if
the
they
Elven
weren't doing
Forest
the raid.
just doing some questing,
Wow.
and logging in the next day
Well,
to
fuck
find
'em,
out
dude.
that they were banned. I guess Hogger was in a bad mood that day. The way Blizzard handled it was lambasted, and it was basically a giant catastrophe. But after the dust had settled, Karate Chop himself received a permanent ban, and the properties of GM items were changed so nothing like that could ever happen again.
Was it really that big of a deal? I think that kind of stuff is funny. It'd be interesting if like there were more GM fuck-ups all the time. Just to, let me pause this real quick. Is my audio actually bad, or are you guys just saying this?
Your mic has been low for a long time.
Okay, let's see. What do I do? I turn,
Why don't you look at the mixer and turn it up, dumbass?
How about now? Is this better now? I think I turned it up a little bit, right? Is this good? Okay, it's better. Alright, yo, my bad. Alright, we should be good now.
In the early days of World of Warcraft, everyone hated rogues. I should know, I was a rogue
They
in
still
vanilla.
do.
They had a very high damage output, and combining that with stealth made them forces to be reckoned with in PvP. This was when PvP was in its infancy, and there were a lot of balance issues.
Look at those bars, man.
There were no diminishing returns, crowd control such as sheep could last for a straight minute, and with the rogue having
That was whenever
stuns,
the game was
disorients,
fun.
and more, it was commonplace to lose control of your character for 30 seconds or even minutes at a time, while you were stuck in a seemingly infinite lock of stuns, disorients, and silences. This was the spotlight in the World of Warcraft series of videos made by the player Mute. These were a series of
This is
videos
really fun
showing
right
just
here.
how strong rogues were, giving the following
it's
two
not.
conditions.
What do you mean?
A, you were
No,
good,
yeah, it
and
is.
B, you had your cooldowns.
You get killed
Given
and you
these
don't
two
even have to
things,
do anything.
what would you say if I said that you could beat anyone in the game? What would you say if I said you could do it naked with just a level 1 white dagger? Well, these videos showed just that.
What a great
a
game.
naked rogue taking out not only just random
I never
players,
watched that.
but rank 14 Grand Marshals, including Matey, who was a pretty popular
Wait, what?
PvP
You never watched
warrior
World
at the
of
time.
Warcraft?
Although there's some
No, I
controversy
never did.
about that, if it was actually him or if he sold his account or whatever. Regardless, the video showed just how good rogues
my
could
God,
be given
we're
the
gonna
right
watch that right now.
circumstances.
Okay,
They caused
just a
quite the
minute.
controversy at the time. People were outraged at how much control rogues had in PvP. Rogues responded saying that they're too cooldown dependent and so on.
Yeah.
It was an interesting
true.
time in the game where if you were good enough and with the combination of engineer gadgets, you would be able to pull off some amazing things. Nowadays, everyone has a CC breaker, everyone has a sprint, crowd control, everyone
True.
has a tool for everything
Everybody
for
has
the sake
everything.
of balance. Maybe it's healthier for the game overall,
No.
but over time, interesting PvP
boring.
videos like this have vanished. The World of Warcraft videos, however, are still just as legendary as they've ever been, and I suggest watching them if you want to see an interesting part of the game's history in the realm of PvP.
Was it really that broken? I guess so.
I don't understand how, like, whenever you hit someone you hit them with a hamstring, you figure they're not going to be able to move. How does the hamstring last like 2 to 3 seconds? But whenever I get hit with a hamstring, it lasts like 2 to 3 minutes. I don't understand.
True.
Like, I don't even understand what it is that I'm fighting.
You can consider this one a bonus intermission since I'm not really sure if this is widely known, but this is Tommy, and he's having trouble with hamstring.
I can charge him, and as I am charging, I am slamming on my button that only hits hamstring, and I'll miss. As in, not like it swings and misses, I won't get a hamstring off. If my only intent on attacking him is to get a hamstring, how the fuck can I miss it?
Yeah,
they just got the flag right underneath of us, and this guy is running 3 times faster than I am. How the fuck?
You see, back in the day, there was something called charge dodging. The warrior's charge ability wasn't the most reliable, and if you had good timing, if you jumped as they were charging you, you would be out of range before they could actually reach and attack you.
What a terrible game.
This was a PvP tactic used by higher level players to kite warriors more easily.
I bet you did.
Tommy wasn't a fan of this technique, and he wasn't afraid to let his voice be heard.
I don't understand
and they fixed
why it is that I get my ass stopped by these fucking coneheads.
His woes continued, and his indignation steadily rose. He refers to his opponents as coneheads, in reference to the look of the Alliance's PvP gear at the time. As his hamstrings failed, so too did his patience.
I just missed again! What the fuck?
His rage bar was full, both in-game and out-of-game, and the only thing that got hamstrung that day was his pride.
Is this who I think it is?
No, this isn't the Bohemian Rhapsody. This is Kunyan. Kunyan was considered the best warrior tank in the entire game during the Vanilla and Burning Crusade days. He was a Swedish player, and initially the leader of the hardcore raiding guild, Nihilum.
Fucking God, dude.
This was one of the best, if not the best, raiding guilds of Vanilla and the Burning Crusade expansion, claiming dozens and dozens of world firsts throughout their time raiding. Later on, they would merge with another hardcore guild, Curse, to form the super guild Insidia, which would continue to get world firsts throughout the Wrath of the Lich King expansion. Some of his other accomplishments would be obtaining the Scarab Lord title from the old AQ40 event, along with the legendary mount. He wasn't really known for a single event like most others on this list, rather just a really good, hardcore player who led an equally amazing raiding guild. Something that really put him and his guild into the spotlight, however, was a Serenite bomb glitch with the Lich King. Insidia was the first guild to kill the final boss of the Icecrown Citadel, the Lich King, on 25-man difficulty. But, to everyone's shock, shortly after, the entirety of the team received a 72-hour ban for exploiting.
That's right.
There apparently was a bug where a consumable engineering item, a Serenite bomb, would respawn platforms falling around the room. The ban itself was controversial because these bombs were a part of everyone's DPS rotation, so Insidia didn't really know what they were doing or why it was happening.
They knew.
Blizzard observes every world first kill in small groups, and Kunyan later alluded that one of the people in those groups knew him from his time playing another MMO, EverQuest, and that this person was biased against him and was looking for an excuse to drop the ban hammer. But whether you know Kunyan from this controversy, or just from being a very skilled player, you can't argue that.
I don't, because I knew a person that was able to evaluate this, and they saw this happen, and he said they were intentionally doing it, and I believe him. 100%.
Nah.
He said they were running out to the edge and doing the bombs. It's long enough now to where I can say that.
He's indeed one of the most famous players of World of Warcraft.
From now on, nobody goes AFK, nobody falls the fuck asleep, and everybody plays fucking good, or you ain't getting shit!
Wait a minute, didn't I just talk about this guy in the last video?
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, come on, he's too good. This guy's the best. He's like a drill instructor for World of Warcraft raiding.
That's right.
Why do I see people where they're not supposed to fucking be? Why do I see people anywhere?
This fits? Yeah, this actually really fits well. What the fuck?
Again, this is Dives, the legendary raid leader of the guild White
Wow.
Club. That particular clip was after a failed Ragnaros attempt in the Molten Core. Dives, for those who don't know, is probably the most angry raid leader to have ever played the game.
That's not
and
true.
When people screw up, he's not afraid to let them know. I don't know if he still plays, but if he does and you join his guild, just remember,
hit it very hard.
I hope he still does play.
Speaking of drill instructors, next up we have Shih Tzu of the guild 6 Feet Deep on Dragonma. Nearing the release of the Burning Crusade expansion, guilds were ready to take their adventures into the Outland. How would you level? Questing, maybe some instances here and there, or just straight grinding? Well, if you were in the 6 Feet Deep guild, you had less say in it than you thought. In fact, you had no say in it. A 2007 post by Shih Tzu laid down the rules. All members of the guild are expected to level to 70 as fast as humanly possible. If you want to quote experience the content, please do so after you have reached 70 or on another character.
Yeah, dude.
Here is how we will be leveling. You will log into the game and look for an officer. One of the officers will assign you to a 5-man group. The 5-man group will run the appropriate instance level over and over again until someone has to leave, at which point an officer will assign a replacement. No questing, no BGs, no grinding solo, no trade skills, no farming,
I love this guy.
and no checking out new races.
This is great.
If you're online, you will be expected to participate in one of the groups running 5-man instances. The only exceptions to this will be if there are not enough people for you to group with and etc. There will be plenty of off hours of downtime to goof off if you wish, but during game time, I swear to Thrall, I will G-kick your ass if you're screwing around with stupid shit instead of participating in the leveling grind. Dang, he name-dropped Thrall, that's serious business.
That's real shit, dude.
This was posted to the forums where he was widely mocked, and in response, he said that 6 Feet Deep members are treated more like prized athletes than kids.
Yes, this is what I want.
It's my job to provide clear instruction and focus so that our team is all on the same page, working towards the same goal. It's called leadership.
Leadership. That's what matters. They hated him because he was doing what he needed. Oh wait, what's this one?
For this next one, I want you to think of anything you can do in the game. What is the most evil or offensive thing you could possibly do? Ninja looting, going dives mode, pretending to be a woman and flirting with dudes through a female avatar? Well, how about crashing a funeral?
Ooh.
This next one isn't about a person, but rather a guild, Serenity Now, otherwise known as the Westboro Baptist Church, who on one fateful night became the most hated guild on their server,
renamed it that?
Illidan.
Yes.
Someone in a Horde guild sadly had
I want
passed
to join
away,
this guild.
and her guild thought it would be appropriate to hold an in-game memorial for her. They posted on the forums, picked a location, and gave a time when the memorial would be held.
Oh my god.
This was all well and good, but there were two problems.
This
it was on
amazing.
a PvP server, and it was the internet.
There we go, dude.
An Alliance guild, Serenity Now, saw the post and decided that they would show up, but it wasn't in a show of support.
No.
The turnout was very big, and people lined up in front of a pond to pay their respects to their fallen guildmate.
That was a big turnout
While
back
doing
then.
so, however, most of them were also dressed up in RP clothes, and they didn't have any weapons or armor equipped.
Fucking nerds.
Hey now, that would be inappropriate.
Yeah.
While all of this was going down, Serenity Now were storming through Fellwood up to Winterspring, and when they reached the memorial site, the most controversial, large-scale PvP battle in online gaming history took place.
It was fucking hilarious.
Arrows went flying, blood was spilled, and jaws were dropped.
The techno scat, man? Oh my god.
I like it.
I do too, it sounds good. Frame rate, by the way. Oh my god.
People were outraged, others thought it was funny, and some quit playing the game entirely out of disgust.
Wait, really?
I want to remain
That's
the neutral
great.
mediator here, so I won't give my take. All I know is that this was quite possibly the most controversial thing to ever have happened in not just World of Warcraft, but gaming, period.
Give me a fucking break. Jesus Christ, dude. That shit was actually funny.